Director and concept design. Tetsuya Nomura. Not one of my favorite people. Okay, alright. It was very good. That ending was very good. Damn. Alright, yeah, it was very good. It's so hard trying to say that this game is good. Because I was slightly mistaken. Slightly. It's... That ending sequence was so fucking good. It like made up for everything. Why couldn't the whole thing be like that? No, I'm kidding. God damn. I gave this game a 6.5. If you take out that ending sequence, I don't know if I can give it a 7. Because on my scale, you gotta think of it this way. On my scale, 10 is perfect. And then 5 is average. And to give us a 6.5, I felt like that was pretty accurate. But after having finished it, what was this, 45 hours for me, ish? It was good. It was very good. I would recommend it. And I'm curious to know. I'll say this too, as a naysayer, as the 1% that wasn't feeling this game, I'll say this. If you can finish this game and not like it, there's something seriously wrong there. It's called Yosh. There's something seriously wrong there. There's no way you can reach the end of this game and not like it. It's very good. That ending made up for everything. It made up for everything. There's a lot of people who don't like it. Woo! I have to... You know what? You know what's really funny? I'm gonna go on an anime tangent for a second. Because I just finished saying that if you don't like it and you finished it, there's something wrong there. Because it's like in the anime where there's like an evil character and they're fucking super evil, like Sasuke, 'cause I see Brandon in the chat. And then after they turn back to the good, they have to kind of like sympathize with other evil characters because they're like, well, I know what it was like to be that dark. I feel like if I knew somebody that didn't like this, we'd have Yuri Lowenthal. I knew he was, there he is, Johnny, Yuri Lowenthal. I knew he was in the game as Sasuke, I knew it. But if I would love to have a conversation, chat, text, FaceTime, whatever. If somebody didn't like it, I gotta talk to them. I gotta talk to them. Because I didn't like this either until... And Thryden would know, like, it was such a back and forth. I think right before the plate was dropped, I was like, okay, this is really good. Okay. And I like it so much now that I'm okay with them taking however long they need for the next one. Because they did it right. They did it right. I'm trying to think of what I feel they could have improved on within this game as it was. I mean, everything was in there that I can remember. Everything was in there that I can remember. I'm trying to really think. I mean, Red 13 didn't attack Hojo and chew at his neck. But other than that, I mean... See, I don't know, and it's funny, Brandon, because like I was thinking about this before I was gonna come back to stream. I was thinking, how funny was it that you were super hyped for Final Fantasy 15, like throughout the entire time I knew you, versus 13 and then 15. And then when that game came out, you didn't like it and I did like it. And I was like, what? I was like trying to convince you like, well, what about this? And this is so cool. And then it flipped and then you liked this one. And I was like, I didn't really like it. I know. 15, I know. That's all I was gonna say about it is just that like, cause we've talked at length about like how your idea for what 15 was supposed to be is perfect. And I wish it was that, but we got what we got and that's it. But this game was so important. And I don't want to try to like switch sides and be like, oh, I'm on the side of people who really love FF7 there was FF8, there was Lunar, there was Parasite Eve, there was Legend Dragoon. There was a ton of JRPGs that came out, Xenogears, right around the time of this game. So to me, it was just a game in passing. And then years later, did I learn that like, oh, people really, really love this game. But I was okay with it never coming out. I was like, I like what it was and what it meant to video games at the time. To get it after all this time and Square to say, we're gonna do it right, we're gonna do it such and such a way, I had zero faith in that. I'm okay with saying that. I had zero faith that they were going to be able to pull this off, and it was very good. And the stuff that they've incorporated from at least the only other part of Final Fantasy, Advent Children and Crisis Core, was smooth. It could have been way weirder. But I've always been a story guy. I feel like if for a game's gameplay to really make me not like it, it's got to be on a different level. And the battle system was cool. It was frustrating, but I was frustrated with Bloodborne, and I love Bloodborne. I was frustrated with this game's battle system, and I still think the battle system is simply okay. My issue, I'm going on a huge thing. My two things, and I don't want to make it too long, about the combat system is that you needed to have magic. This game kept doing this thing where it would throw so many different types of enemies at you. It would give you crabs, or like some crab enemies, and it's like, oh, they're weak to ice. And you kill them, and then it's like, oh, the next enemies are weak to fire. You fight those, then you fight mechs, and it's like, these are weak to lightning. So you had to like constantly keep magic up. If you wanted to use purple spheres, yellow spheres, or just like level up green spheres, you really couldn't, because when you fought the enemies without using their weakness, they just took forever. Until eventually they did some sort of AoE that like knocked you off where you couldn't stagger them. So I wouldn't say I wish, but like that was a very frustrating part of the game, that you needed magic. If you didn't use it, then your fights, you could do it, but your fights just took way longer. So that's my criticism of the battle system, is that you needed magic. If you didn't need magic, and instead most of the enemies required you to stagger them in different ways, hit this enemy so many times, hit them in the back like the jetpack guys, interrupt them when they're doing this attack, block their attacks. If they kept that up with like, here's how you stagger them, that would be cool. But if wind, and then when it was, you pop them with it, they get pressured and they're knocked down, and then you pound on them until they're officially staggered. And it was just weird that it worked like that. But yeah, that's kind of like my complaint of the combat system in a nutshell. The only other thing that's like a small complaint is I wish that like when you dodge things, you could actually get out of the way of it. In my fight with Sephiroth, I kept doing this the whole game, which is like I would see an attack and I'm like, oh, they're charging up, and they're like, and they're charging, and they're gonna charge in a straight line. I'm like, no problem, I'll just run. Okay, if I can't block it and I can't dodge it, then I just get hit. Like, okay, that's weird. But that and the elements, the combat was, or that part of the combat was frustrating. Story-wise, the only thing I think would knock it down just a little bit for me on the story was, because it was pretty much the same story, was that I wish that the way characters interacted with each other was a bit more realistic. There were like 15 times in the game that Cloud would be like, and he'd like grab his head, and somebody would be like, Cloud? And then he'd like, it's nothing. Or he would be like, is that you? After grabbing his head, and then run down a bridge, jump in the air, and slice at something, and nobody commented on the fact that he just like had an episode. That was weird to me. It was weird that like they didn't try to update that for the way you might react to somebody if they were to do that. very, very anime. You know, very anime with the mannerisms, especially Tifa. Thryden would know too. During the early parts, they had the Japanese girl thing, which she would be like, got it, you know, and it's like, nobody really does that outside of like anime or cutesy Japanese girls for commercials. And I get that it's a Japanese game, but I think that those little ticks really took me out of the experience. And I criticized them for it. But looking through some of the images here, I know a lot of them have passed. The Don Corneo stuff, the dancing, the cross-dress scene, all of that was really good. Reno and Rude were super good. Sung, the Turks were perfect. And the things that they did improve on, the things that I felt that they decided to change, I liked. I loved the changes. Like President Shinra, the way that he died versus, I think the way it happened in the original was you got captured in the elevator and then you got put in prison, and then in the middle of the night, the doors were open. Cloud has an episode with Genova. You go to the top of Shinra, and then President Shinra is dead with a sword in his back. And it's just like, I recognize that sword. Sephiroth did it. That's cool for 1997 or 8 or whenever that game came out, but it was way cooler how like other people could see him, and in the original game, you're chasing a character that nobody really knows. They're just chasing clues of Sephiroth. In this game, they updated it. They're like, here he is for real. You can hear him, you can touch him, you know what he's talking about, you know what his motive is because he's told you. So now, when you're gonna go on through the rest of Final Fantasy VII, you have a clear antagonist and villain in mind. And so every time he pops up, whether he's some sort of Genova illusion or not, it's, you know him. You, the player, and the characters in the world know about him. So I like that. That was a great change. I've got to catch up with chat here. I'm just reading. Yeah, Devin talked a little bit about the stagger system in 13. The only thing about 13 I've ever seen anybody play was you, Brandon, and it was 13-2, and I don't know anything about the combat system. I only know the story, which is okay. But I like it. I like it as a package, and I was hoping, I said this on Twitter too, where I said I really hope, when I was playing through the game, I said I really hope this gets to a point where it gets good, because I wanted to like it. I like stuff. I really don't come into anything, movies, TV shows, you know, games, wanting to dislike something. I don't. Honestly, I like a lot of the games, TV shows, and movies that I like, but I wanted to like this. And I specifically didn't read any reviews because I didn't want to be swayed potentially on the negative side of being like, it's not as good as the original. But I like it. I liked looking through some of these images that are going through here, or clips. I really, really liked that they brought life. I think Shiva Jones, I think you mentioned this with like concern with it feeling padded. And I want to say there are times when it kind of does, but it's really hard because they really brought Midgar to life. Listening to people talk about their life savings, like our house and our life savings were in Sector 7, you know, or being like, it woke, like the sound of the plate dropping woke me up. Like everyone was talking about it, and people were like, you know, the power line, or the power's out, so like we're trying to call them and nobody's picking up. I thought that that was great. I thought that all of those tiny things that they tried to do where you're running past characters in the game and they're commenting on Avalanche, they're commenting on Midgar, they're commenting on Shinra, all of that stuff was really cool. I don't think this was in the original game either, but they made Wutai a bigger thing at the beginning of this game. I could be wrong about that, but like they kept bringing up almost like in a heavy-handed way, like, you know, well, we'll just say they were with Avalanches with Wutai, or oh, our war with Wutai. I was like, they're talking about that already? Okay. But I guess that makes sense. Like if you were talking about a war that had been over, yeah, like it would make sense that people would still be talking about it. I would argue that you have to put Sephiroth in the game like that because the story is separated into multiple games now. Yeah, I was very surprised that Sephiroth was in it. I'm surprised. It totally caught me off guard because I'm a normie and I'm over here thinking the end of the game is going to be the bridge at the end of that's not even disc 1, that's just like the end of Midgar. That's where I'm thinking the game is going to end. So when they threw Sephiroth at you, I was just like, okay, wait, that makes sense that he would be in it because like it's Sephiroth, you got to put him in. But then he's doing Heartless Angel, which I don't think he had Heartless Angel in the original 7. Maybe he did, but I don't think he had Heartless Angel. I think that's a move that he got in Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, they need to include Sephiroth. It's pointless to try and pretend. Yeah, I like the fact that, and Brandon, I think we talked about this too, just offline, that I was excited to see how they used him, because you don't really technically see Sephiroth until I think Disc 3, because he's in the ice. So you keep seeing these like shades of him, but you never see him. And I guess it's still a shade of him anyway, but like everybody knows who he is, everybody knows what he's done. So dancing around that would have been weird. Like the man in the black cloak, right? As I think how they describe him in the original game. It's like, you know, I did see a man in a long black trench coat, now that you mention it. It's like going into part 2 of this game, they don't need to know that. Like they could say that, like, yeah, we saw a man in a black trench coat, and everybody in your party is gonna be like, cool, thank you, we got it. Which way did he go? Manifesting through his clones mirrors what happened with Kadaj and Advent Children. So Brandon, I don't know if you wanted to like text this to me or not, but you said that, I think you said you had some things you wanted to talk about the ending, because I'm kind of curious. If I tried to predict what I think you might say, it would either be about those people with the numbers on their shoulders, or it would be about what I think is a huge deal, which is the Whispers. That might be the best part of the game, right? That has to be the best part of the game, is the Whispers. The fact that there are these entities, if my understanding is correct, that exist kind of in tandem with the planet to ensure that people kind of move about through the live stream like they're supposed to. That's cool. That's interesting. And I feel like it gives Square Enix, there they go, an interesting way of like writing themselves out of some corners, because it'll, whoa. Aha, chapter selection. Cannot take screenshot now. No, I'm not trying to. Ah. Okay. Uncompleted quests. Find story elements you missed the first time through and thoroughly explore Midgar. Yeah, I love that so far he is only met. Okay. Yeah. Do you notice the chip bag that flew past Zach? The chip bag? It had the stamp dog on it, right? I mean, I don't know if there's something I was supposed to get about that. Oh, dude, I don't think I noticed the breed of dog. I thought that they were all different pictures of the same dog. This picture of the stamp, it was a different breed of dog. So basically the Zack scene is an alternate timeline. No fucking shit. Are you going to throw this at me, dude? a timeline? An alternate timeline? See, the way that I saw it, and I know that I'm the person streaming, so like I can like talk infinitely, is that like the way that I saw that, and I could definitely be wrong because I'm wrong about everything, is that when stuff is hitting the characters and we're seeing like clips from Advent Children, or we're seeing like the ending of FF7, is like, I don't know where I want to go with this. I guess my thought is that like that's what's kind of supposed to happen, and people are seeing what's possibly going to happen. But they're kind of seeing it in bits and pieces. In Crisis Core, that same battle. Okay, I watched a bit of roundtable discussions of what's going on at the end of FF7 theories about alternate timelines. Yep. I don't know, because I mean, without seeing these same videos, I would disagree, at least with my own brain and the eyes that I'm using to play this game. Like, from what I'm seeing, everything that we've seen that's happened. I'm going to read. So something Brandon said, hold on. In Crisis Core, that same battle was where Zack died. This one, he clearly didn't. Let me think about that. You're right. Unless... Shit. Damn it. I was going to say, unless when he's carrying Cloud, that's before he gets he confronts the Shinra soldiers. But that wouldn't really make sense because he just finished fighting them, and then to cut back to a scene earlier before he fought them would have been weird. And didn't Biggs die in the original game? I mean, personally, I mean, Thryden was telling me that that he didn't, or that Wedge didn't die. I thought they all died. I mean, you know, if I can if I can jump on the train of like, yeah, I'm an FF7 fan too, like the rest of y'all. I would say that like, I mean, oh, it took me 54 hours in the bottom left. I remember FF7, but like it's not like crystal clear in my mind. It's like I remember Fort Condor. I hope I live till Fort Condor because I want to see Fort Condor. Give me Fort Condor. But there's like pocketed things that I remember about FF7. I can't really remember like every small detail. Devin was by the stream. He swung by the stream the other day, and I was mentioning like, oh, I like how they did Reeve. This makes a lot more sense. And he goes, that's how they did Reeve before. I was like, okay, like I didn't know. So Wedge and Big survived, but it sounds okay. Crisis Core is okay. Is it? Yeah, it's pretty good. I didn't like Crisis Core. It gets into Kingdom Hearts levels of bullshit. Oh yeah, because Crisis Core has Genesis in it, and Genesis also ends, or Genesis. Crisis Core ends in a really really stupid way, but because also Crisis Core does something that I think is like blasphemy, which is that it gives a backstory to the Buster Sword, and the Buster Sword already had a backstory. So Crisis Core is like, nah, it didn't really belong to Zack. It belonged to Angeal. And you're like, who the fuck is this guy? And then he's just some dude who was also in Soldier. And then he gives the sword to Zack. And then Zack dies and gives the sword to Cloud. It's like, oh, man. Like, it was a whole lot cooler when when you just knew it belonged to one other person. Okay, well, what's really fascinating is that I don't know. I'm not a huge trophy fiend, so did I save it? I think I did. I hope I did. Let's save it again, just in case I didn't. I'm not a huge trophy fiend, so I don't think I'm gonna delve back in here and try to get like any other weapons or like materia or stuff like that. I think I'm pretty good. Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about that with the alternate timeline thing. I mean, listen, I'm full of hot takes. What I will say is, if they do an alternate timeline sort of situation, I don't know if I'll like that. I mean, it's a remake, right? So, like, one thing I really hope that they would do is just add a lot more context and depth into stuff that we already got from the game, but don't change anything that, like, don't remove stuff and don't, like, change, like, oh, you know, something wacky about the game. And I say that also saying that the Whispers are in the game. So, I mean, I like them, but I think I like the Whispers from the perspective that when you interact with them, when you touch them, or they touch you, or something that is a conduit to the Whispers, when they make contact with somebody, you see as like a brief flash, like something that will happen, because everything's on a path. The live stream has like a plan for everybody. But I think that people are seeing it in glimpses. And that's probably what, I think I meant to say this, but I think that's what Sephiroth is doing. I think that what's happening is that Sephiroth has seen the same, if not similar, glimpses into like, oh, I'm actually going to be like the leader of the world. Like, this is my thing. But he's not seeing himself getting cut up by Omnislash at the end. So he might have the same problem where he's only seeing flashes. Yeah, I'd be curious to know if Aerith has the full story. I'm pretty sure she doesn't, because they were asking her questions like, well, what does this mean? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know how to get to the promised land. You know, like, I don't know, you know, what's going on. All I know, I can feel it, and I can kind of, you know, I have some sort of deeper connection to what's going on. It was good. It was good. I'm going to be listening to some other stuff while not any sort of official revision of score. I think that taking the ending into account and just my own personal experience before I get swayed by too many other reviews and spoiler discussions and stuff like that, I would probably give this out of 10. Out of 10? 10 being perfect? Probably a 9. I think 9. I think it did everything that it could do. I think everything that it sought out to do, it did as well as it could. Things like, oh, it's too Japanese, like that's an opinion, and that's like well, not really an opinion, it's a preference. But the combat style, I don't know if that's a preference. Come on now. But I think everything that it set out to do, voice acting, music, graphics, combat, pacing, writing, story, changes, everything that it set out to do, it seemed that it knocked it out of the park. And I think the FF7 fans would, I think they'll really like it. But as Brandon mentioned a bit earlier, I could see some of the diehards probably having an issue with the ending. Like I'm over here squirming in my chair because I want anything new. I already know FF7. Give me something I don't know. And they did. The entire ending chapter 18 sequence is like, hey, did you play the first game? Okay, fuck all that, because here you go. We're gonna throw something completely new at you. I hope people do like it though. I'm always interested in playing something new. I love newer games. I always like newer stuff more than older stuff. So if you're gonna throw something old at me and it be new, then go full in on the new. Yeah. I mean, and they got their work cut out for them, because I know that Square Enix, what you said, Shiva Jones, about like bringing the city to life, because this is just Midgar. This is just Midgar. Like, what about the rest of the map? And forget the map, because I don't think that they're going to go with a world map idea. I think we might be done with world maps. You know, I think you'll probably see it like a Horizon or a Witcher method, where you like run on horseback or chocobo back or something. But I don't know if you'll like go to like a bird's eye, like, you know, world map. But they got their work cut out for them for the next ones, because if this is how much effort they put into Midgar, I hope it's not another 20 years before we see part 2. But if this is what they did to Midgar, like, what's Gold Saucer gonna look like? I mean, Gold Saucer is pretty much wall market, like, times 1,000. $8.5? That's good. I could agree with an 8.5. I still think I'm probably being a little generous by giving it a 9. Because but my scale, like, it's old school, like, school grades, right? Like, if you got 100, you got an A+. If you got a 90, you still got an A. And if you got an 80, it's like, hey, you got a B. That's still good. You should feel good. C is like average, so it's 7 out of 10. But to give something like above average B, 8.5, B+, or solid B if it's B+, you know, yeah, that's good. That's still a good, very good score. I think a whole nother score you could probably talk about this game about is how good it is versus how long it took to come out. Like, I don't want to open up any wounds here, but like, did this really need to take like 14 years or 20 years or however long it was? Could you not have done this in 3? 5? That's a different thing, you know. 8.5 is solid though. The only reason I think I'm pushing it slightly up to a 9, slightly, I'm giving it that 9, is because of that ending sequence. Without it, it's like a 7. It's the best I can do. But with that ending sequence and everything that we've been talking about with alternate timelines and seeing Advent Children cuts and seeing stuff implemented from Crisis Core and hearing the music and, you know, their take on ATB, you know, it's like, why isn't it turn battle? It's like, you'll still get your ATB if you want it. It's not the same way, but, you know, here you go. Drops it a point or two versus like how long it took to come out. I mean, if we got this announced, like, just hypothetically, let's keep the scores that we gave it. Let's say hypothetically this got announced in 2015, which it may have, but like 2015, and then it came out when it came out. You'd have been like, Square Enix, I never left. You know, it's like they still got it. But, you know, when you think about like FF12, and 13 and 14 and 15 and then we get this one. It's like, oh guys, come on. I would agree with a 9. It's not perfect for me either. Yeah, 9. Yeah, it's a generous 9. I mean, I know there's all these qualifiers, you know, but like, yeah, and it's a smooth 9. But yeah, if I couldn't give it a 10. I can't. I never will. I didn't give the original a 10. And I'm also, something that'll prevent me from giving this game a 10 is simply the fact that it's nostalgic, sure, but nostalgia, maybe I'm lying, maybe Brandon can call me out on this, but like, I feel like I've never really been super nostalgic about a game. I mean, it always hits me, like, oh, Ocarina of Time remaster, that's cool. But like, that stuff hits me, but like, it's never like, you know, I'm jumping off the walls. So, when did they announce the remake? I don't know, dude. You know what I want to say when they announced it? I want to say 2013. Let me pull up a tab right quick. I think it was 2013. FF7 Remake. I'll tell you this too. You want to get something that makes me more nostalgic about FF7 than playing this game is the music. The renditions they had left me stunned. If you don't remember, if you don't remember, there's a song that you can pull up on YouTube called The Promised Land. It was the opening song to Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. It's one of the most beautiful songs ever to be associated with Final Fantasy. And that song, a rendition of it, is in this game, and it's at the area of the game after the first Mako reactor was blown up. When I was running through the game, I'm gonna put this up on my YouTube channel as a highlight. When I was running through the game and I heard The Promised Land, I stopped. I was like, what? So the music, the flowers blooming in the church, Aerith's theme, Ahead on Our Way, the prelude, every track that they did has been crazy good. So I wish, I mean, that might also be like part of the score, but I just categorize that as like music and visuals. Announcement trailer was 2015 for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just threw that out randomly. So the remake announcement trailer was 2015. I think the reason why it might seem longer is because of that fucking tech demo that came out in 2005. When that tech, dude, when I was at my computer, I was a kid, and when we pulled that, I had to use, what was that player called? DivX? It was like DivX. We pulled this clip up of Killzone and the Final Fantasy VII tech demo. I was at my computer. This was like a 1998 piece of garbage computer. We looked at this game, the FF7 tech demo where Cloud jumps off the train. I turned to the person next to me and I was just like, we are never gonna hear the end of it. That was 2005. I said it to him. I was just like, fuck, we're never gonna hear the end of it. And then Advent Children came out a year later. And then again, it was like, come on, you guys can make a remake. You have Advent Children, you got the tech demo. I was like, I'm never gonna hear the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm never gonna hear the end of it. And then now, here we are. Oh, I guess this plays everywhere. I'll go to a different chapter. Oh, Shiva, are you saying that you didn't really like the music all that much? I was very blown away by the music. And I'm not really like, I also wouldn't say that I'm a huge like music is my thing, like I'm constantly listening to music, but like, I've said this before, it's gonna sound like a broken record, but like, when I was growing up and after FF7 I played it and everything, I had the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. It was 3 discs, and as far as I knew, you could only import it from Japan or get it from a shop that had Japanese stuff. And I would listen to that soundtrack like every summer. Like, I would put in all, we had this, dating myself here, but we had this like disc changer like CD player, and when one disc would finish, it would just move on to the second one and then move on to the third one, and I would just play it. And I listened to Final Fantasy VII music constantly. I listened to all these remixes. Brandon and I, years ago, we went to like a concert that played Final Fantasy VII music. So, like, I've heard it. And to hear it again in these versions, I was just like, oh, wow. It's like, it's not just that it's new, it's that it's different. So. Yeah, I think one of my favorite. I think I was talking to Thryden about this the other day when I was getting ready to log out of a stream. I was playing this, and I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. I don't think I am. I think this track that's playing right now is the version that's used in Advent Children. Because there's a section of it that, like, when it starts getting faster, I don't think that version, as a piano, is in any other Final Fantasy VII thing, other than Advent Children. And so there was one day I was playing, and when I heard this, I was just like, oh, that's cool that they used it. And then it got faster, and I was like, they lifted this out of Advent Children. There's also with Advent Children, there's an unreleased track for Cosmo Canyon. It drives me crazy if you care to look it up. In the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children behind the scenes, the animators are talking about the movie, and they play a very, very short piece of Cosmo Canyon that I've never heard. I've never heard it released anywhere. And I used to rewind that section of the Blu-ray commentary just so I could listen to that section of Cosmo Canyon. So if it's in this, if it is in the next game, whenever that comes out, like, I could melt in this chair. Like, that would be my fanboy moment. That would be the moment where when somebody's just like, what the fuck? Like, it's not that cool. Like, that would be my moment, is like Cosmo Canyon, dun 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 dun, and the drums, I would just, oh my god. That would do it. That would do it. Oh. So, I'm a fiend for FF7 music. It's good. Even though I think, no, it's my favorite. I think right behind it would be 10. Even though Brandon hates the Hymn of the Faith. Hymn of the Faith is gangsta, but it's used everywhere. So, all right, well, that's it for me. Brandon, I'll probably chat with you later, but thanks so much for swinging by, people, to hear my thoughts on Final Fantasy. Yes, I'll take the L. It was good. I think the 6.5 was a bit ridiculous. I'm embarrassed if I ever go back and watch my streams and I'm sitting here like, oh, this is stupid. Like, this game, I want to turn it off. Like, it's good, but it did take playing the whole thing. And I wanted to turn it off. Let's be honest. I wanted to do it, but I'm glad I stuck it out and saw the ending sequence. All right. Thanks for swinging by, everybody. I'll chat with you on the next stream. It's been cool. Final Fantasy VII was good. And now I'm going to go look into this alternate timeline stuff. All right. I'm out of here.